Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 142.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the CashFlow Diary Podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other CashFlow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
All right, and welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Massey, and you know what? I'm glad that you guys are here because oftentimes you can get stuck thinking that there's only one way to actually go out there and build your own cash flow. You get stuck thinking that, man, I've got to find that one perfect thing that's going to light it up for me and make it happen. And one of the things that I've learned is that oftentimes we ask ourselves a very incorrect question. We always go, what can I do that's going to make the most money? I think that's the wrong question, and I think today's guest is definitely going to assist you as well as me in understanding different ways to deal not only with that question, but how to make sure that we put ourselves in a situation that allows us to actually live closer to our goals, and most importantly, go out there and create cash flow in ways that we may not have considered before. Because see, oftentimes on the road to success, you find that it's not as straight as you might like. Today's guest is Derick Van Ness. He is a professional success coach, speaker, and author based out of New York City. He's passionate about helping people uncover and live their soul purpose. We'll definitely make sure we ask him about that at a higher level, resulting in greater profits, job success, and overall quality of life. I love quality of life. Hopefully you do too, because that's one of the most important things that I appreciate about what we get to do as entrepreneurs when we create jobs and create housing and all those types of things. But let's ask Derick some questions and figure out how he makes this happen. Derick, you there?
I sure am.
Excellent. Welcome to the show. I'm glad that you are here. And we are curious because I know we were talking briefly before and you were just telling me about all the myriad of things that you do. And I was like, wow, it's almost like, you know, you can turn anything into cash flow. And that's very, very exciting. But before we go there, many people know that I like to think of today's entrepreneurs. We're all entrepreneurs in some way, shape, or form. I look at us as, like yesterday's superheroes. And whether you like Batman or you like Wonder Woman, it doesn't really matter to me. What's important is that those individuals go out there, they save lives, they change lives, they make a difference. And that's what entrepreneurs do. But before they were all those super things, they were just people in some way, shape, or form. They had an origin story. So before we get into the great things you've been able to do, you know, and in even the small stint or the large stint, however you look at it in terms of real estate, because I thought that was interesting too. Before we start talking about that, what I would really love to know is, who's Derick Van Ness?
That is a fascinating question, and it has changed a little bit over the years. But pre-superhero, before I put on the mask and the hat and rode around on a horse,
right?
I was really fortunate because I grew up in a family where my father was a business owner. So I think I always had the ambition to be a business owner, but I wasn't sure as a kid like what that was going to look like or how I was going to get there. So I was just kind of following that track of like, you know, go to school, get good grades, get a degree, and figuring a lot of that out. And along the way, I kind of tripped over something that made a huge impact on me. And that was when I first moved into the dorms in college in a small town in southern Utah. The guy next to me, who was at the time a Kevin Bacon lookalike, really nice guy. So he was probably less than 7 degrees separated from Kevin Bacon. But he came over and invited me to a thing called the President's Committee, and I got to meet the president of the university at like my second day of school, and I was like, wow, this is super cool, and I like this. And I started to see behind the curtains, like, that the things that happen in the world, the things that are created in the world, don't just happen by accident. It's regular people like you and me making decisions, doing the best they can. These people are fallible, and they're not all NASA scientists, and that the average person can really make a difference. And I went on to do some really great things in college, but that prepared me for understanding a little bit better what it was like to be in charge and run a business, because I got to run clubs and organizations and fraternities and different sorts of things. So at that point, I always knew that I wanted to be a business owner, but I had one big flaw, and this is pre-superhero, of course. I was scared to death of selling.
Nice.
I always thought, okay, if you're going to sell something, you've got to wear a lot of hair gel and a cheesy suit, and you have to like have bad breath and get in people's face and make them do stuff they don't want to do.
Wow.
And and I know that that is not the case. But I had to look that fear in the eye, and that was the biggest thing for me pre-superhero was, how do I get past this fear of selling? And so basically, I went to Silicon Valley after I graduated from school, and this was the height of the .com excitement. People were riding Razor scooters around and going to work in board shorts and whatnot, at least on TV.
Right.
And I was super excited about that, but I took the hardest job I could find, which was basically door-to-door sales.
Nice.
And I went in there, and we were selling coupons. It was nothing glamorous, but they literally said, you need to knock on 100 doors a day and give this sales pitch. And if you do enough of that, you're going to sell some of these and you're going to learn. And I thought, you know what? There's nothing in the world scarier than this for me. So this is what I need to do. Wow. And I never regretted that situation because, and I read this later in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, like the one thing you need to have as a business owner is you've got to be able to sell.
Yeah.
Right.
That is amazing to me. Well, and the challenge is that now that you've just said that, there's probably, I don't know, half the people just stop listening. They're like, oh no, I don't want to face sales. They're like, I got to sell stuff. He's going to talk about sales. Well, yeah, of course. That's what we do as entrepreneurs. That's what we do. And we do it every day. But what I find remarkable is most of the times when we identify something that is, something that causes hesitation or fear or anxiety, most normal people run the other way. You said, oh, look, here's a weakness. Let me go attack it. Where did that come from?
This is something that I learned in a really interesting way. I have always had, and I don't know why, but so many people say, oh, I can't do that. That's not me. And I've always looked at it and thought, that needs to be done, or I want to do that. I guess it just needs to become me. And I started to realize that this wasn't common when I would take my sister out shopping, Christmas shopping or whatever. And she'd be like, well, I'd like you to pick stuff out for me because you'll buy things that I wouldn't buy for myself because I'm afraid to buy things that aren't me. And I've always thought, well, shoot, if I wanted to dress a certain way, I just went out and started buying clothes like that, even if it wasn't quote unquote my style. And then it became my style. And I think I've kind of done that as a human being. I've just looked at what are the characteristics of what I want to become. And then I just start doing those things and being that person. And amazingly, it works every time.
It definitely has to do with your ability to make a decision and cut off other options, which gets me to something you said. Because we were all exposed to it, that same go to school, get good grades, and get a job. I'll call that the default path. When, lacking any sort of conscious choice, this is the path most of us end up on. That's why I call it, life by default. And yet what you speak towards is this life more by design in terms of what it is that you actually want to accomplish. So talk to us a little bit about that, that transformation period. I mean, to keep with the idea of a superhero, there's a time, something happened, something usually traumatic, happens to the person where they have this experience and they choose to become this different person with this pain or this trauma to go out there and start using it in a different way. And I'd be interested to hear what that sounded like or what that transition period was from you, because if we grow up on the default path, something changes somewhere that says, I need to do something that's not by default.
Yeah, I call it the Oliver Twist moment, right? The moment you go from sitting down and eating the mush that the world's giving you to when you decide that I would like more, please, and you're not afraid to stand up in the face of whatever's scary at that moment and say, this isn't good enough. I want to create my own thing now. And for me, I think what it came down to, I'm sure people have talked about the power of goals and blah, 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 and all that stuff. And that's kind of how I felt about it at the time. But I was got a sales job coming out of school, like I said, and we had to write down some goals. And I had written down some ambitious goals. I want to be worth X amount of money by, 5 years from now. And I put it in my journal and didn't think much of it. And I went through my life. And a year later, I sat down and I was flipping back through my journal and I saw that goal. And I took a minute and I looked at my life and I thought, if anything, I'm further away from that goal than I was 1 year ago. I've been busting my tail, but I'm driving the same car, wearing the same clothes, in the same position. And I probably have a little less money in the bank because I had been enjoying myself living by the beach in Southern California. And I thought, this isn't going to get me where I want to go. And it was like a lightning bolt hit me. And I realized that the path I'm on right now in corporate America, even in a sales job where I'm cold calling and I was learning some valuable skills, but I just realized this was not the path for me. I'm never going to get where I want to go with this. I've got to do something different. And so for me, it was really humbling because I mean, it's really hard to look at a whole year of like getting up early and busting your butt every day and realize that was all for nothing, or so it felt.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, but that can't be the end of the story.
Certainly wasn't. I would say about 2 to 3 months later, it was actually on my birthday. I was doing some research on the internet. I called in sick to work. I just was like, I've had it with my job. And for about 2 months, I'd really been stewing on this idea that I wasn't getting anywhere, even though I was treading water as hard as I could. So I started doing some research. I ran across at that time some real estate investing courses, and I made what for me at the time was a very big investment, about $1,500, and I bought some Ron LeGrand courses. And I got some of his stuff, and I'm sure you know who Ron LeGrand is, but the guy is he's incredibly compelling, and it really changed my life. It showed me what was possible, and that's a lot of what I end up doing with coaching. It's not rocket science, but so many people, we've been, like you said, on the default path, and we don't even realize what's possible out there for us. And so we just keep going down that path because no one's ever taken the blinders off. And he really took the blinders off for me. And I realized this is something I really want to do. This is exciting to me. I have a construction background. I know what he's talking about. And at the time I was like, if I could even flip a couple of houses a year, I could make $100,000. And when you're like 23 years old and right out of college, you're like, that's amazing. So I was hooked, man. And at that point, I started spending every free minute studying his stuff, reading sales books, reading real estate books. I had my library on wheels, in my awesome LA commute. Ooh. I must have listened to hundreds of hours of tapes and CDs and everything that taught me the skills. And then at the end of the day, I had to go out and get a mentor to kick my butt to get me to actually go out and hit the streets. And then I started my first business with real estate investing and went on to flip about 130 houses in LA for a while.
I just want to point out, you said you listened to hundreds of hours of tapes and CDs, and I know some of you were like, wow, that's a lot. That also meant he was in his car for hundreds of hours because our traffic is just that awesome. So just keep that in mind.
Yes.
Now, one of the things that you said that I absolutely enjoy the thought of is, you said it began to show you what's possible. There are very, very few. I'm like, I wish that was like a major at college. Show me what's possible. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
But that's just not how it's designed. And that's very true for that. That was very true for myself. Is like, you mean I can do that? You mean people do this? And oh my gosh, you can. All of the things that are possible that you did not know. And what happened is that this information came into your life to make it more probable. Now, you don't actively still do the real estate thing, though. Is that accurate?
I do a little bit on the side,
Okay.
but it's not my main focus. Yeah, I've got a couple of properties that I'm working on right now.
Got it. So, when you say the main focus, though, what is that these days?
So, as everybody knows in real estate, the market took a minor dip in 2007, 8, and 9. Right?
Minor. That was air quotes, by the way. Yes.
Yes. Minor dip. And to be honest with you, like, I had been a little bit disenchanted with it, partially because I'd sort of worked myself out of a job. I had hired people to do everything in my business, and I was kind of bored with it. And the only time I ever got called was when like the pipes broke over the weekend and I had to go in and deal with, okay, are we going to have to get mold out of this house? Those kinds of things. So I was really enjoying training other investors, which I wasn't really actively seeking, but a lot of people were coming to me at the time. And funny thing is, a couple of those guys are even sort of gurus in Southern California now, who will remain nameless. But that got me into this thing where I was like, I really like working with other business owners. I love helping people find their dreams, figure out what they want, and start moving forward. And fast forward a couple of years, that as the economy kind of changed, that was really where my focus went, was helping small business owners. And, between then and now, I've worked with over 1,000 business owners, helping them to grow their business, because it's not rocket science in most cases. There's some fundamental things that you've got to get right. I mean, every business is different, yes, but there are some key things that make businesses work or not work. And I love helping remove those obstacles so that people can follow their dreams and really like build the cash flow it takes to express yourself fully. Because that's, you said you're all about quality of life. To me, that's the bottom line, is your business is here to serve you as a human being and to serve the things that you want to help create. And if it's not doing that, if it's detracting from those things, we've got to spin it around and make it so that it's working for you, not against you.
Indeed. And what I enjoy about what you just shared with us is the fact that you said businesses are different, but yet there's some key factors, and I want to talk about those. But expressing yourself fully is one of the things that I mean when I say quality of life. And I don't necessarily mean, unless it's your thing, you want, the big house, the fancy cars, and all those other things. But quality of life has a lot more to do with being able to comfortably choose to do what you want to do when you want to do it, even if all that means is go to little Johnny's soccer game. And you do that, without having to call in sick and apply for time off and all these other things that we subject ourselves to. Or if you want to explore for me, a few years back, I called myself retiring for a very small moment, Derick. I thought I was actually like, okay, let's try this thing out. And then I got so bored. But what I did is that I picked up a camera. And I didn't know, but I picked up a camera and I started taking photos. And then that just lit some new thing in me that I was like, this is awesome. And it's fun. And then I went nuts with it. And you don't even want to know how much we spent in cameras and all this other stuff. But
I can imagine
we were able to do that because of the whole real estate business and all these other things, making that happen. And it even got to the point to where I just set a small goal. I was like, what would be neat is if I could, be a published photographer. And I went and eventually got assignments freelancing for the Orange County Register as a sports photographer. And it was awesome. I got a lot of my shots actually selected and printed. I was like, this is neat. So
that's cool.
And that was just for fun, because it's like fun. And now it's just a thing that I do when I want to relax. But that's part of expressing yourself fully. Now, one of the things that you said that I think is going to be very valuable for everybody is you said that there were some basic things that even though businesses, yes, they function differently, they provide different, services and products. There are some basic things that you got to get right. What I would love to know is two things. What are those top 2 or 3 things that you got to get right? And what are those top 3 things that everybody does wrong?
Okay, we can do that. The one thing I would say about this too is, Jay, the reason I'm so passionate about what I do is I fundamentally, and I hear you say this all the time, I strongly believe that everybody has something to bring to the world, something unique. We sometimes refer to it as soul purpose. You can think of it as your gift. You can think of it as your whatever your word is. But I feel like the number one thing holding people back from bringing that to the world is their lack of understanding about money, finances, and business. And so as a coach, my mission is to remove those obstacles so that people can let the money flow freely and allow it to do exactly what you're talking about. They can try on the things and maybe discover what they're really all about, what really lights their fire, and how they can contribute. Because you and I know that when you create value, the dollars follow that, right? Now, not every single thing, if you're doing freelance stuff for fun, is going to be a full-time job. But I would dare say that you freelancing and being involved in things that you love makes you a better business owner anyway.
Right. I think it makes me a better father as well.
Yeah.
And better husband, better friend, better so many things. It's, ridiculous. And it's just stuff that I enjoy doing. Like, it was funny when you were talking about, how you ended up teaching. That's one of the things that I've learned as well, is that I didn't know that I could, or that I would be any good at it, and that people would actually get results. I'm just like, wow, this is awesome. So I spend a fair amount of time inside of our Facebook groups and whatnot for our members, helping them, and it's fun. I'm just like, wow, they got another check, or this person got the first thing under contract. Those things that I get so excited. I get more excited about them buying another building than I do myself, and it's pretty cool to be able to do that. But what are some of those top 3 things that that every business, absolutely, you got to get these 3 things correct?
So the first thing, in my opinion, is you've got to understand your business model. Like, what are we in business to do? So, like, if you take real estate, are we in the buy and hold game? Are we buying distressed properties? Are we developers? What are we doing? Because if you don't know what your business model is, it's too easy to get pulled in 99 different directions, right?
Yes.
Especially in real estate.
Especially.
Yes.
I'm laughing because it's the number one question I get. But go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I used to drive through the hood and I was like, oh my gosh, the streets are paved in gold. Look at all these vacant lots. Look at all these fixer-uppers. Look at all this stuff. But it really does take a focus of understanding, like, let's start with one thing and get really good at that. What is it that I really want to do? Why am I in business? What is my model? If you don't know what that is, everything else is going to be kind of Band-Aid, fake it till you make it. This is where I see a lot of people who are trying 10 different things. They're like, Derick, I'm trying 10 different businesses and none of them are working. And I'm like, well, that's really weird. That 10% of your effort can't start a business? That's weird. Right?
Exactly. Now, if that's you, just know that we care for you, but we got to shave that down. Keep going.
Okay. The second thing is you have to understand you have to learn how to listen to and understand your customers' needs. Most of us, when we start a business or when we're in business, we can only see it from our side of the coin. So you have to learn how to tune into what's important to the customer and who they are. So if you're in the real estate game, or if you're in the coaching game or whatever, you need to be able to understand who they are, where to find them, and how to speak their language. So this would be like sales and marketing, right? Mm-hmm. You've got to understand the term that's going around right now that's real popular is the avatar, right? Right. And defining who these people are, because if you can't speak their language, they won't understand you. And if they don't understand you, you're going to be in a big problem. So that's the second thing, is understanding who your customer is.
Well, and that's actually, I know for some people in the real estate world, they may think that they don't have to do this, and that's absolutely incorrect. as many of you have heard me talk about, the Walmart, Target, and Nordstrom analogies, all three of those stores do very similar things, but they do it for three completely different avatars or customers. And your real estate, even if you're a buy and hold person, is the same way. There's a particular avatar for your ideal renter, and you need to know the same information for the same reason. Real estate is still business. Don't disconnect from that. All right. What's number 3?
Are you tired of letting good cash flow generating ideas go to waste? Go to CashFlowDiary.com/ready to apply for a complimentary, yes, that means free, one-on-one breakthrough session. Take action now. Go to CashFlowDiary.com/ready. Again, that's CashFlowDiary.com/ready. Before we get back to today's episode of the Cashflow Diary podcast, your host Jay Massey has some important insights to share with you.
All right, guys. One of the things that I was thinking about is just how foundational real estate investing is. It's a business, and because it's business, there are so many lessons that you can learn. And I just think it would be interesting, like if you had to graduate college, or you couldn't graduate college until you actually, or high school even, until you actually successfully did some sort of entrepreneurial venture. Even if all you did was resell candy that you bought wholesale or bought in bulk and resell it one at a time, that you had to prove some sort of business model or something in some way, shape, or form. I think something that simple would change, well, everything for so many people. Anyway, it was just a random thought as we're continuing to talk. Let's get back to the interview.
Well, and now you got the Airbnb customer too, because that's like a whole new model that's happening.
Right.
So
that's why real estate can be so much fun and so diverse, is because you've got so many. I mean, there's so many different types of people that you're serving. That's why it's no one. That's why it's hard to say. What do you do? If you ever say I do single family houses, that doesn't really tell me much. It's like,
right.
Yeah, how are you using that house to generate an income? To whom? I mean, there's so many different plays that one can develop in that particular sense and to make things work. But yes, we're actually in the process of getting into the hospitality world ourselves.
Very cool. So the third thing is division of labor.
Ooh,
and,
yes.
One of the things that Ron LeGrand, I distinctly remember him saying is, when you buy these houses and you want to fix them up and resell them, which was kind of the first thing that I was into after I wholesaled a couple, he said, when you swing a hammer, you make what a guy swinging a hammer makes. When you are a real estate investor, you make what a real estate investor makes. So as quickly as possible, stop swinging the hammer and start being a real estate investor. And that made a lot of sense to me, but how that translates to any business is really, if it's below your pay grade, you need to find someone else to do it as quickly as possible. I realize in the beginning, if you've got more time than money, you do have to do some stuff on your own. But once you start building up some cash flow and you've got the ability to hire out the $12 an hour, $15 an hour, $20 an hour, $40 an hour jobs, the sooner you can do that, the sooner you can focus on the $200, $500, $1,000, $2,000 an hour type of activities.
Indeed. You're speaking my love language right there, man. And I have a question, though, because it seems as though, would I be correct in saying that your real estate training gave you more of a foundation for just business in general that you now get to use in many, many other different forms?
Yeah, well, that comes back to the similarities in business, right? At the end of the day, it's all about value exchange. And so you have to create value and people will trade their dollars for it. So that's fundamental to everything. That's what's happening in real estate. Like a lot of times we're solving people's problems or dealing with stuff they don't want to deal with. And that's why we get a good deal on property, right?
Yes.
And so we're willing to do things they aren't, or at the end of the day, what we're doing is very valuable to them and they're willing to pay a premium for it. And that's fine. The same thing is going on in just about every other business. Is you've got to create some sort of value, but there's a lot of different levels of work that go into creating that value. The innovation, the stuff that guys like you like to do, Jay, where you're creating content, you're coming up with ideas, you're doing the high level stuff. That's the big dollars. The follow-up phone calls, the emails, the creating of forms, the streamlining of systems, a lot of that stuff can be done at a different pay grade. And we want to find people who are good at that, who are happy with that, who are challenged by that in a good way, right? Because you can't hire a genius to do that job. They won't stick around very long. But you got to find the right people to be on your team who fit for the jobs that need to be done that are not the best fit for you.
Right. And that's, I guess, at the end of the day, what I like about what you said is it's below the pay grade. When something is below the pay grade, you don't do it. There are many things that you do, have to do, but you've got to set that minimum for yourself. And it's definitely a concept I ran into semi by accident one time when someone was saying that because I was stuffing my own envelopes and doing the direct mail. That was not something I should have been doing, but we all can get caught in that, etc. So what would you say are the top 3 things that they should not be doing?
So I want to say one thing before I jump into that, and it's as simple as this. You're right about the below the pay grade. There is one caveat to that. You cannot delegate self-reliance. There are certain things that you can't delegate, just like you can't delegate your health, you can't delegate your relationships, and like keeping track of your own money, you can't delegate. You still have to oversee some things. You have to use professionals, but you've got to know enough and pay enough attention to use those professionals. I only say that because I made some mistakes where I kind of turned my head and I didn't pay attention to things because I was above that, quote unquote. And it came back to bite me in the backside because it wasn't getting done properly. And eventually that, threw a wrench in the system at times. So I do think that there are certain things that even though they might appear to be below your pay grade, they are the overseeing of what's really important in your business. And let's not mistake those for being in the trenches doing that work. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. There are, I think we've all made some similar mistakes, for sure. There are some things you can't delegate. I know one of the most difficult things to delegate or ever let go of is the sales component, or marketing to some degree you can do easier, but the sales component becomes a challenge. It's one of the harder things to actually do. But at the end of the day, you do have to find ways to, as you said, oversee, have some form of checks and balances to make things work.
Yes. So the big mistakes that I see a lot of people make. The first one is, and I'm sure you've heard this a billion times, is paralysis of analysis, right? People want to overthink things and they don't want to take action. And what I would say to that is there's only so much you can do from the sidelines. The game looks different when you get on the field and when you're actually out there getting feedback from real customers and learning by doing the work. So if you're not actively engaged in something that's new, you just want to plan it, you need some structure in place to help you come up with a game plan and then get on the field and get your hands dirty. I really believe that.
Yep. Agreed. I mean, everybody's got a plan, and your plan is perfect until you actually go out there and, try to get somebody to buy something. So that's it's like my whole theory on business plans is this is what we think our business is, and the product we think we're going to provide to the person we think would buy it, and at the price that we believe they'll pay for it. And this is how many we think we can sell, but we're really not sure. That's like
right. We're basing that on our imagination.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. But, hey, and you can analyze that all you want, and it doesn't matter until you've sold one. Go sell it quickly. Excellent. What else? What's number 2?
The next thing that I see a lot of business owners do is they hire the wrong people. They either hire someone just like them, or they hire people who are not competent enough. Like they want to hire like the cheapest people they can find. And the cheapest people you can find is not the way to build $1 million business.
Say that again. Say that again.
The cheapest people you can find is not the way to build $1 million business.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that they heard that.
Okay.
Because
it's easy.
Right.
Yeah, it's easy to do. And I've made that mistake. When I was running multiple construction crews, you always want to look at that money and you're like, well, this guy's $20,000 and this guy's 15. So maybe we can go with the $15,000 guy. And then you just have to babysit, and it costs you way more than that $5,000. So,
yep. I've been there, done that, not doing it again. Excellent. What's number 3?
God, I don't necessarily have these in a script somewhere, but I think the third thing is people don't take the time to master their craft. In other words, they're trying to do a lot of things and they're doing enough to get by, but they stop and think, if I was going to build my business in a way that it had to compete on the level of elite athletes, right? Like if you think of yourself as a business owner like an NFL football player, what do NFL football players do? They get up early, they work hard, they have dietitians, they have coaches, they do every single thing they can. And I see a lot of business owners who just do enough to get by, but they're not trying to be a pro at what they do. They're not, I don't think it occurs to them that they need to be a pro because they're making enough money to get by, but then they wonder why they've hit this glass ceiling. And it's because they haven't taken their business serious enough to really learn their craft. So I think that's the other mistake I see a lot.
Got it. Makes perfect sense. Totally understood. Now, as you've gone out there and you've been able to help, as you said, thousands of business owners, what usually, I guess, is the number one cause, in your opinion, that helps people to finally figure out how they're going to create their business? Because that's the other question that I think happens a lot is, I want to do something that builds a business, but I don't know what that is. How can someone figure out what that should be?
So this comes back to, and a lot of people don't want to look at it this way, but I have found this to be really true. If you have a clear vision of where you want to go, it's much easier to get there. And most business owners who are struggling or can't seem to take the next step, it's because they're not clear on what it is. And this is a lot of the work that I do with people. I really help them reconnect with, why are you in business? Why did you pick this business? Are you actually passionate, or do you care about what this business does? And if you do, where does that lead you to believe you want to take the business? Because if you know where you want to go, I think of it like planning a vacation. It's really hard to plan the flights if you're not sure where you want to go, right? It's hard to book the tours until you know I'm going to Cancun. And amazingly, once you know you're going to Cancun, it's like, oh, well, we know there's X amount of hotels and they have the amenities we want. So it's really easy to pick one, and it's really easy to pick the flights, and it's really easy to book the cruises or whatever you want to do when you're there, because that's the reason you're going there. And so I think the main thing is realizing, why am I in business? And based on that, what do I clearly need to do next? And I think most business owners just aren't sure. They're kind of mushing around and they're trying to play the game of more, but more is so vague. It's like trying to buy a plane ticket to the beach. Like, they don't sell those, right? You have to tell them what beach. And people want to be rich, or they want to be happy. Well, what does rich or happy actually mean? If you don't get specific about what that looks and feels like, it's very difficult to get there. You just sort of drive in circles and you wonder why you can't make any progress. So that to me is the very most fundamental thing, is, why am I in business? And what's the next step in taking this thing to the next level? And if you don't know what the next level is, that's the question you need to ask, is, how do I make this bigger in alignment with what I ultimately want to accomplish in the world?
Well, and all right, so when we're bringing up the subject of alignment, I think that's absolutely important. And most importantly, why am I in business? I think those two things go together. How does one figure that out?
So this is a great question, because most people be like, well, I'm in business to make some money, which we get,
right,
of course, right? I would argue that if you're only in business to make some money, you're taking the hard road. It's not impossible to do that, but as you and I have seen, businesses have ups and downs. And if you're just in it for the money, the first time you hit a down, you bail out. And guess what you get to do? Start all over with another business and discount all the experience you just had and start with something new. If you're in something with meaning, or that matters to you, you'll stick it out through the hard times. And when you come out that second, that second wave, and you're a lot more improved and you're leaner and you're smarter, because when your business is failing or when it's not going well, you get really, really aware of what's working and what isn't. When you're fat and happy, it's easy to be wasteful. It's easy to make a lot of mistakes. when things get tight, you get really good. The next time as you kind of come out of that trough, then you really accelerate. And that's where I see people kind of explode into the stratospheres once they've been through some really hard times and they've learned how to master their craft. And so we want to take that idea and push forward in a way that follows the meaning all the way to the end. And so the question we ask ourselves is, the two things that I think are most important is, who am I when I'm at my best? Because that tells me what part of the business should I be doing. Am I a technician? Am I good with people? Am I a salesperson? Am I a visionary? Am I a manager? Am I a systems person? What am I great at? Because I think of every business as like a bunch of puzzle pieces, right? And in the beginning, you're every one of those puzzle pieces. But as your business grows, certain puzzle pieces get handed off to other people. But which ones ultimately are you going to keep, right? And that's the first question is, who am I as a human being first? What matters to me? What drives me? What am I good at? What are my experiences in? Where do I have that incredible value to bring to the table? And the second thing is, what's the difference I want to make in the world? And that could be something as simple as being a great father or parent, or it could be something as huge as, saving the rainforests or whatever is meaningful to you, right?
Right.
And I say that kind of jokingly because it's cliche, but the reality of it is there are people and that really makes their clock tick, and that's great. But you got to be honest with yourself about what difference am I really here to make, and how does what I do day to day matter to that? Because it's amazing how that fuels you internally through the hard times, or keeps you focused when things are really good, and you say, let's put the pedal to the metal. But you're going in the direction you want to go in. You're not just driving randomly.
Correct. The interesting thing is about what you just said is that there are, for many of us, I know for me, it's amazing to run into individuals who absolutely love things that I do not. And I'm just like, wow, it perplexes me. It's like, you actually enjoy that. And one such category, because I've run into a number of them, are professional organizers. And I'm just like, you like organize closets and desks and office, and that does it for you. And then you can hear them just go, yes, and this. And I'm just like, wow, I'm nothing like you. I'm so glad you exist. And it's amazing as a business owner, there are all of those pieces, the puzzle pieces that you're referring to, they're necessary. And there are going to be some, in fact, that you absolutely are horrible at, that you need to get rid of quickly. And
yes,
so just be aware of that while you're also thinking about where you are at your best, there's a whole mess of stuff that you're probably doing that you really want to get rid of as soon as you possibly can. And believe it or not, there's somebody who loves it. They're amazing to me.
And they're probably a lot better at it than you are.
Well,
so,
God, I hope so.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, I find with business owners, they're like, nobody else can do it like I do. Nobody else can blah, blah, blah. And you're like, yeah, in most cases, these people would actually follow through, because a lot of business owners are visionary, quick start, get things going kind of people. A lot of them are not great at following through. Mm-hmm. So bring in the people who really fill those gaps for you. Like you said, we call it building a sole purpose team, right? If everybody in there is doing something that's meaningful and purposeful for them, now you get a really powerful synergy, because every one of them is there doing the max, and their max is way more than you could ever put into it. Even if you're a really talented person, if it's not your thing, you're not going to be able to compete with somebody who loves it.
Exactly. They're working with a completely different mindset space, energy space. It's amazing. It's one of the things that I do my best to do on our team is I tell everybody, do only that which you do best, and we'll find a way to hire out the rest so that we can make everybody always function in their areas of their greatest strengths, which means we can be hyper productive in a very short period of time, simply because, the things you like to do, you're going to do more of them. You're going to have more fun doing them. You're going to want to do them, and you're going to do them quick. And I like that in this day and age. So let's ask this. If someone's been listening and right now, and they were like, man, I feel like there's information here that, can help me kind of get over those humps, maybe begin to build my cash flow. What's the best way for them to find you, track you down? Tell us how to stalk you, Derick, because we're trying to get more of what you got.
Well, I'm on every piece of social media known to man, but the best way to find me is on my website. It is bringpurpose2life.com. So bringpurpose2life.com. If you Google me, Derick Van Ness, fortunately for me, there are no other Derick Van Nesses in the U.S. I think there is a guy who plays hockey in Canada who's also a Derick Van Ness, but you can flip a coin. You'll probably be able to figure out which one's me.
Wow. I can't do that. It doesn't work. There are too many others. That's awesome. That's good. Excellent. So, and as a matter of just leaving us with that final thought, if there's someone out there who is considering putting on their superhero outfit for the first time, maybe they're still, selecting the color tights that they want to put on, or if they want to have a cape or not, but they think that they want to try their hand at this thing. What I want to know from you is, what would you tell them to do right now, today?
Well, the first thing is there's a superhero supply store here in Brooklyn where I live. There literally is, where you can go in and try out a cape and they blow a fan on you and the whole deal.
Wow.
But it's pretty cool for kids. But beyond that, what I would say is this: pick something that really lights you up, that you're really excited about, and you can see a clear way, clear business model. And once you're clear on those two things, what do I want to do and how can I make this profitable? You may not know all the answers, but you at least have the basics. Because I think, if you have a skill that you're like, I really love sweeping stuff up and cleaning things, and you're not sure how you're going to make a business out of it. But once you're clear on those two things, what do I want to do and how can I turn that into a business model? You have to commit. And this doesn't mean jump off the cliff and learn how to fly on the way down. You got to make a plan, but you have to commit to yourself that I'm going to save the money. I'm going to put the things aside. I'm going to put the structure in place, whatever it is. This is what I'm going to do. And until I do this well, I'm not going to get distracted by anything else. This is it. It's like the commitment that parents have to kids. When it's the middle of the night and your kid is sick and you're tired and you're sick and you have to drive all the way across town and there's an accident every 45 miles, because I know how LA can be, and it's going to take you 6 hours to get there. Guess what? You still get your kid to the hospital. If you treat your business with that level of commitment, whatever it takes, the buck stops here, and this is what I know I want to do. Without a hesitation of a doubt, no is not an answer. It's not even an option. Then if you can go into it with that kind of commitment, I guarantee that even if you don't end up where you think you wanted to in the beginning, you'll end up where you needed to go. You'll figure it out, and you'll find a way to have your own business that's building cash flow. So I don't want to discount the fact that you have to have a plan and the preparation in place, but once you make the plunge, commit 100%. Because I can tell you this, with my real estate business, I was 60 days after I had quit my job and I had not bought a house yet. And I looked at myself in the mirror and I thought, holy expletive, what have I done? And I also thought, if I'm ever going to make it, I have to stick with it, because going back is not an option for me. And thank goodness I burned the ship, so to speak. And literally a week or two later, I got the first phone call that allowed me to buy a house. And, I think I made $12,000 on it, which at the time was a lot of money for me. Looking back, I would have never bought that house, but that was what I needed. And I find that every time you make a commitment, you sort of stand up and say, this is what I'm going to do. You have that Oliver Twist moment and you ask for more. You're going to get some pushback. You are. And you have to go to the wall and you have to keep going. And when you do, just on the other side of that is where you're going to be. So a friend of mine said, and he got this quote somewhere else and I've heard it before, but success is on the other side of failure. You can't be afraid of failing. You have to just push for success until you find it. It's out there, but you have to commit to it.
Nice. Definitely appreciate you taking the time to invest here with the Cashflow Diary audience, Derick, today.
My pleasure. Loved it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what it's time to do. Well, if you listen to that last bit, you know it's time to fail fast, fail forward, fail frequently. Go out there, write some offers, make something happen so that you too one day can say, you know, $12,000 was a lot of money for me at one time. And now is not, because that is also part of where you can end up. In fact, go over to bringpurposetolife.com because you probably are going to learn a whole lot more. This thing you're looking to do is a whole lot more than just about money. It's been fun talking to you guys today. I look forward to talking to you soon. Until next time.